Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we are going to be looking at the 2022 gubernatorial elections and my current projections for them. So, before we get started, I want you to check the community post. I made a more in-depth post about it, but I'm not going to be uploading as much. I know I've said this before, but I'm getting really busy right now. I've got, to get more specific, I'm not, I don't like to extensively talk about my personal life, but I've got a ton of essays that I need to write right now, and I play sports, and football season, basketball season about to start, and those two sports that I do play. So, I'm gonna be busy right now. October and November usually busy months for me. I hope to resume, posting 3 or 4 times a week by November. I'm hoping that's gonna happen. It might not. I'll keep you guys posted for sure. No pun intended. But I really do appreciate the understanding that even if I'm not posting as much as some of the I know Let's Talk Elections finds the time to post once a day. I'm impressed that he can do that. Unfortunately, I cannot do that. So I'm just going to be trying to post as much as I can. But for the rest of this week specifically, it's Wednesday right now. But I'm probably not going to post until the end of the weekend maybe. So I get that that's bad for me. I don't want to do this. It's bad. I enjoy making these videos, and it's bad for the algorithm. It does not help my views or anything like that, but I will say that it's what I need to do in my life right now, and I'm someone who, I'm not a procrastinator. I just want to, I want to get my stuff done, and if YouTube gets in the way of that, I'm going to unfortunately have to, take a mini break from YouTube. So, that's the bad news. The good news is that you're going to have a video on a pretty interesting topic, or at least what I consider to be an interesting topic. We're also going to do some more map reviews. I know Arkansas published a draft map today. It's a Republican gerrymander that's going to, spoiler, all 4 states are going to stay red, I'll tell you that. But we're going to hop right into it with our states that I don't really want to talk about too much. I do think that some states are going to be more competitive than others. For now, Maryland is safe, Democrat. It's a pickup, but I don't really think that it's going to be that competitive, especially without Larry Hogan. Massachusetts, we'll talk about something interesting happened there today. Rhode Island could get interesting, but McKee's probably going to hold there by we'll have to be, Rhode Island's not really a state that people are paying attention to right now because it's not really a swing state, but, I could see it going to a 10-point margin of victory instead of a 16-point margin of victory for Democrats, which really matters on what's going on in a year from now. Maine is going to be lean. It'll be the only lean Democrat state that I'm going to characterize right now that I'm not going to talk about. But Paul LePage is running as the Republican, or likely to be a Republican. He's the former governor, so he's got upside. He's an interesting candidate for sure, but I just think Mills is not in a position where she's going to lose right now. Could that change? Absolutely, but not going to do that right now because I want this to be kind of a quicker video. So the Dakotas, or the Dakota that's actually voting right on September 20 or on November, I believe 6, 2022, safe Republican. Kansas, I think, is going to be likely. That's a pickup. Laura Kelly, she had a good poll a few weeks ago that had her approval solid in Kansas, but I don't really think that she's there are going to be people that like Laura Kelly that approve her that are just going to vote against her because assuming the Republicans just run someone like Jeff Collier, who's a decent candidate anyways, unless they really fumble the bag and run Chris Kobach, I don't think that they're going to be losing this race. And Kobach was a uniquely bad candidate in 2018. He lost in a D+8 year. Kelly won by 5, so Kansas did vote 3 points to the right of the country. And I know that I don't like to talk about that too much, but if Kansas voted 3 points to the right of the country with Kobach, without Kobach, it'll probably vote maybe 10 to 15 points to the right of the country. In 2020, I believe it voted 16 points to the right of the, I think 18 points to the right of the country in presidential election. So Kansas, I just don't see a path for Democrats there. It'll be more close. I think Kelly's gonna lose by only single digits, but it's not gonna really be erased. I think the Democrats would be fools to be spending their time and money here because Laura Kelly, she has popularity, but it's not enough to get her over the finish line in Kansas. Alaska can be safe. Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, South Carolina's gonna be likely. Iowa and Ohio, the Republican primary in Ohio could get interesting, and if the Democrats run Rob Sand in Iowa, it could move to lean or toss up. But right now the Democrats are not at a very high point, and as a result of that, states like Iowa and Ohio go from lean Republican to likely Republican to kind of high unlikely borderline safe, and they're not really worth my time to talk about. Now, Nevada and New Mexico are just going to do this also Texas should be likely. In geographical order, we're going to go across here. I'm saving New England. Actually, you know what? No, I'll do New England. So, if Sununu runs, which I think he will run for Senate, I think New Hampshire's a pickup for Democrats by a lean margin. But Vermont's going to stay red with Phil Scott. New Hampshire is really interesting. So, Donald Trump yesterday, he endorsed Jeff Deal, who is going to be running in a primary against Charlie Baker. Deal is a very Trumpian Republican, and if he got the GOP nomination, and if he won that primary, he would probably lose, because the only reason that Charlie Baker has won in Massachusetts as a Republican is because he's very moderate, very liberal Republican who has appealed to Democrats. Jeff Deal does not have that. So I think that if Deal won the GOP nomination, it would go from safe Republican to safe Democrat, and it really depends on whether Baker even runs again. Baker might not even run. He doesn't have great fundraising numbers, but if he does run and he wins the primary, I think it's safe Republican, maybe likely, but it'll be Republican for sure. But if Deal wins the primary, which I think I'll project right now, it's safe Democrat, because even in Massachusetts, the GOP electorate right now is not really Baker's not as popular as he was with the GOP 2 or 3 years ago. So I just think that for now I'll say Massachusetts is a pickup, but it's really dependent on whether Charlie Baker is the GOP nominee, because if he is, safe Republican; if not, safe Democrat. Now going over to our Democratic states. Or I guess lean Democratic states, Nevada and New Mexico are two of them. And, Nevada, we've seen some good polls for the Democrats here. Catherine Cortez Masto is doing quite well. Or in recent polling, she's been quite popular. His name was Steve Sisolak, and Sisolak, I don't think he's in danger of losing. The Republicans, I think, are going to end up running Dean Heller, and Heller's not a bad candidate. He's a former senator. He's won statewide before. The only issue is that in 2018 he lost. He got smoked by Jackie Rosen. So, that was a blue wave. Nevada still did vote a little bit to the right of the country, but I just don't see, unless there's an R+3 national environment, I just do not see Nevada flipping back to the GOP. And the numbers that Democrats are right now getting out of Clark and Walsh are just very hard for the GOP to overcome. They'll come close. I just don't think they're going to win. Now, in New Mexico, I do think that New Mexico is going to be barely a 5-point margin victory for Democrats, and that's mostly because Michelle Lujan Grisham has allegations of groping a staffer. I'm not going to go too deep into that, but what I will say is that whoever her opponent is, this isn't talk about Mark Ronchetti potentially running, whoever her opponent is, not going to let her off the hook for that. So I do think that it's going to be a tougher than expected campaign for her, but she should still win. And, doing lead mostly out of an abundance of caution, and it could easily go into the 7 or 8 point margin of victory, so it could easily be likely, but I'll say lean for right now. Now, for Arizona, this is a flip from my previous video. I had as lean Republican. I moved it to tilt Democrat. This is not because the Democrats have gotten better nationwide or because Joe Biden's got more popular since my last video, but it's because Donald Trump, I think, made a really bad endorsement in this race from a strategic standpoint. You're entitled to your opinion about who you think is the best GOP candidate, but I think that Kimberly Yee was the only candidate who would actually win, because she had that really strong appeal to both Trump voters and suburban voters who turned away from the party in recent years. But unfortunately for the GOP, Donald Trump endorsed Carrie Lake, who not really the strongest candidate. She's very pro-Trump, very right-wing, and I'm sure that Trump supporters are going to be coming out for her. But in Arizona, in a midterm, where rural voters don't even turn out as much as the highest turning out block in midterms is college-educated white voters, which are swingy. In 2014 they came out big for Republicans, but in 2018, 2020 they were a little more Democratic. So Kimberly Yee, I think, had good appeal to that group in Arizona, but Carrie Lake, I just do not think is as good at plenty of those voters as Kimberly Yee. She might get slightly better numbers with very pro-Trump rural voters, but A, those voters don't turn out as much as they did in 2020, and they're not going to, and B, I think that Yee would do fine with them anyways, and Carrie Lake just not the strong candidate, and she'd be kind of a Martha McSally, and it's unfortunate for the Arizona GOP because this would be the third election cycle in a row that they would have gotten unlucky with Arizona. So Arizona tilt Democrat for right now. Now to go over to the Rust Belt, I think that the Rust Belt's really competitive. I think we'll see a split result here, which is rare, but I think Wisconsin, the GOP picks up Wisconsin, but the Democrats hold on to Michigan with Gretchen Whitmer, and they do hold on to Pennsylvania. And this is for a few reasons. So Wisconsin obviously is a little more conservative than Michigan, Pennsylvania. It's about a point more conservative than Pennsylvania, but 2 points more conservative than Michigan. In 2020, it was at least. In 2018, it was, I think, 10 points more conservative than Michigan at the gubernatorial level, and 16 points more conservative than Pennsylvania. So, Pennsylvania especially has been, friendly to Democrats at the midterm level, or at least more so than other states. But I do think that Wisconsin, unlike its Rust Belt counterparts, is going to flip it. This isn't because Tony Evers isn't popular, because there's any glaring scandal with him. I just think that he won by he won by a point in a very Democratic favorable year, and Democrats did very well in Wisconsin, and he actually ran behind most Democrats, and I just don't see the energy there for him. This could change. We could see better polls for him, but with the numbers he's expected to get out of the WOW counties, especially in Waukesha, which is definitely the most important county in Wisconsin, politically speaking at least, Waukesha is a county that I do expect Tony Evers to do a little worse than Joe Biden in. And, just a minor fall in Waukesha or in Washington, and even going out to Kenosha, which I think he'll do better than Biden in. But Waukesha and Washington, which are two of the three WOW counties, it looks like they are going to be a little worse for Tony Evers than they were for Joe Biden. That's just enough to tip the state to the GOP column. Now, in Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer, she's fairly popular. She's got some things going for her, but as of right now, I would say that the GOP is not really in a position to be winning Michigan. James Craig, strong candidate, but at the same time, we've got to remember that this party has not done well in Michigan in the past, and in midterms it's been very hit or miss for the GOP. They've either won big races or they've kind of gotten pulled out, and I think we're going to see in between where Whitmer only wins by a point or so. But so I think that Michigan really close. There have been some solid polls for Craig. He's only behind by a point or two in some surveys, but for right now, things could change. But as of right now, I just don't think that he has just enough to pull it off. Then in Pennsylvania, I'm going to say lean Democrat, and Pennsylvania, I think the Democrats, assuming Josh Shapiro runs, which if he doesn't, I think it's still Republican, but he's the popular Secretary of State. He won by 5 points in 2020. He was the best performing Democrat in the state, and he'd be probably running against Lou Barletta, and Lou Barletta is someone that lost the 2018 Senate race in Pennsylvania by 12%. He's not a very popular figure in the state, and people can say that he was running against the popular incumbent Bob Casey. Casey's popular, and it was in a blue wave year, and those things are true. But psychologically, if 4 years prior voters rejected you by 12% statewide, it's unlikely that you come back and make up that 12%. I think he'll make up 8 to 10% of it for sure, but it just won't be enough to make up that 12% because he needs hundreds of thousands of voters to flip to him, and he'll get some of them, but I just don't think it'll be enough, especially against Josh Shapiro, who's a pretty strong candidate for the Democrats. Now in Florida, I do think that the GOP is going to win this seat. Ron DeSantis, I posted about this on Twitter, but he kind of has this cycle where it happens every 3 months. There's a wave of COVID that hits Florida. His numbers go down. People are saying, he's going to lose to Charlie Crist or Nikki Fried. And then once the wave kind of settles down or people stop talking about it, his numbers go back up and he's fine. So, I've never really moved away from my DeSantis win column. I've moved it from lean to likely and likely to lean, but I'll put it as likely right now. I do think that Charlie Crist is a decent candidate for Democrats, but, he's just similar to, someone like Lou Barletta. He's just lost too many statewide races to kind of make up for that. He's lost it's kind of a joke that he's lost as both a Republican and independent, and now he's going to lose as a Democrat, so he can lose as statewide as a member of every party. But I would expect him to, make up, I think his best region is going to be Pinellas County, Hillsborough County. He'll do well in Tampa, that's where he's from, but other than that, I just don't see him getting the numbers in Miami that he needs. He's just not as energetic, or he's not going to be that candidate. For the Democrats need a messiah who's going to flip back those Hispanics that turned away from them in 2020. Crist is not that guy. He can do all right in the suburbs. He can do all right in Duval County, but I just don't think that he's going to be getting the numbers they need from Hispanics. And, the Democrats can do as well as they want in, they can do as well as they want in Orlando. They can do as well as they want in Pinellas, or St. Petersburg, rather. They can do as well as they want in Tampa and Jacksonville and Pensacola. But they're just not – it doesn't matter if they can't make up that ground with Hispanics, or at least some of that ground. So they'll improve. There is a path for them improving, but at the same time, I just don't think that Crist is going to do it. Now, with that being said, we've got our 2 races left. So Georgia, I think, lean Democrat. And, Trump made a pretty dumb comment, not dumb from a political standpoint, dumb from a strategy standpoint. about Stacey Abrams. He said that, he joked that it might be better for Brian Kemp or for Stacey Abrams to be governor than Brian Kemp. But, I get that Trump and Kemp not on good terms right now because it's the 2020 election, but you can't say that. Like, he just threw a member of his own party under the bus, and that is not going to help Brian Kemp at all in a primary or in a general election where, there are going to be people who don't like him because they think he's too conservative, and he's at the same time, there are going to be people that don't like him because, they think he's a rhino because Trump's not going to endorse him, it doesn't look like. So Stacey Abrams is probably going to beat Brian Kemp if she runs. If she doesn't run, it's probably more of a tilt Democratic toss-up race, but Georgia's shifting to the left so much that I just don't think it's possible for GOP to get any sort of a reversion there. So, Virginia, lastly, a likely Democrat, in my opinion. And I'll elaborate more on that later. So I'm not going to talk about Virginia because we'll talk about it in a future video, but, because their election's coming up in a month from now as opposed to a year from now. But I hope you enjoy. I know this prediction, changed a few seats, so it changed. Last time I'd had Arizona and Massachusetts as Republican. I think that I might have had, I had one other race as a Republican. Let me see. I think it might have been Michigan. Could have been Michigan. Could have been New Hampshire as well. But anyways, I think, actually, just to be safe, just be very, very safe, what I'll do is I'm going to have Massachusetts as Republican, just because I don't think, I'm not going to endorse Baker losing as a vote, and I'll have New Hampshire as still Republican, just to kind of signify the competitive of the race. But overall, I think the Democrats, they've got lucky in a few races, especially Massachusetts and Arizona, but they still need to improve in a lot of regions. So thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, leave a like, and I'll see you all in the next video.